it's an old school kind of concept, but we love it. So incentives to pay is just whenever you give a discount for someone paying you timely. And so it might be a 14-day, a 7-day turnaround. You're willing to give 1% to 2%. Now that might not apply to most industries, especially when you have insurance and remittances and all that fun stuff. They're never going to take you up on it. But maybe you got a really good customer that's willing to pay you sooner for paying you timely. And so incentives to pay, we always like to talk about that just because so many people just blow it off and say, my customers will never do that, they won't take me up on it. But hey, if they're saving money and they're conscious about what their outflow is, they might take you up on it. And then that cash is able to be injected in your business and be used and turn over that much faster. So incentives to pay is something we always look at. And if you're worried about that 1% to 2%, and that's gonna break your business, we probably need to look at your pricing structure. And we probably need to evaluate what your expenses are, what your sales are, and really say, okay, our sales market, are they in line with what my competitors are doing, what my peers are doing? And so if that incentive to pay, once your sales have stabilized and are at market, the incentive to pay might be your competitive edge. It might be what kind of sets you apart from other people in your industry. So incentives to pay, that can easily be turned on in QuickBooks. And like I said, you don't have to roll that out to all of your customers. You can just roll it out to one or two or some of your best ones. Maybe some that aren't paying you timely at all. So, and that's where it's like, as a business owner, I'd much rather have the cash than the AR. The paper doesn't do me any good. I can't go to Amazon and pay Bezos my Amazon bill with paper. So I'd much rather have the cash. Kind of the flip side of that is the consequences to pay. So that's late fees. So, and if you don't have some mechanism in your business or in your contracts to assess late fees, I'd really encourage you to do that. Just because the consequences of not paying, you are essentially the bank for that customer of yours. And so if they have no incentive to pay you timely, or not even pay you timely, just to pay you, they're gonna draw you out as long as you possibly can, maybe until the next year when they need to come in to check their eyes, because you know that you're not gonna do work for them until you pay last year. And we saw that a lot in actually our business. And so 8 years ago when we started and kind of grew, any customer was a good customer, and then if you paid us, you were even better. And so, it's amazing to us, this is what we do, but as an industry, we weren't holding people accountable. So in our engagement letters, we actually do have finance charges, and it's not that we're not a bank, we're not in the business of making finance charges, but if that prompts someone to pay us in 45, 60 days, then that's what needs to happen. So, and a lot of times, Amada, she's not in here, a lot of times the first time those finance charges apply after 60 days, they'll do a courtesy call and say, hey, it popped up, but if you just want to pay with a credit card or pay a check, those finance charges won't apply. It's really just a poke, like, hey, did you forget about us type deal. So, but if you're able to do some business model changes to where you're not even waiting on those remittances, that's even the better option. So, if you work with majors, we see it a lot of times in large corporations where people are taking you 60 to 98 days out. That's where a line of credit comes into play. But just being responsible with that line of credit, knowing it has to be paid back sometimes, is really important. So, any questions on either of those?
Well, for myself, I really would like to know some options for, because we have a lot of those builders that just wanna, get to the end of the job and still hadn't paid for the furniture day yet. And, just getting that money out of them is really tough unless we hold hostage to make surveys.
Yeah.
Which is just
And
silly.
Some things you can't even do. Like you're not legally allowed to do that.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So on the front end, on that business model optimization, I'm wondering within QuickBooks, what might be a good method for us to be able to pay online, something that would make it easier for them.
Yeah.
They're busy.
So, and that's something that whenever we onboard a client, it's hard because when we see a client once a year, it's hard to, we're usually project based and we're usually not able to do some of this stuff, unfortunately. But whenever we really do a special project or onboard a new client, we look at that. So if you're not receiving online payments or credit cards or making it easy for your customer to pay you, you're the one that's actually doing the disservice. And so payment portals online and accepting credit cards is low hanging fruit. So if you're not doing, like, go back and do that day one. Like, I'd much rather pay the 2% convenience fee to Amex or whoever and get paid. And that's kind of like this incentive to pay. Now your customers could then do the incentive to pay and pay the credit card, but hey, it's like, that's where you need to make sure that your pricing is correct. In the medical side, we see care credit and things like that. We'd much rather have somebody else finance the procedure. That way the doctor gets paid, even if it's 90-95%. Some of those big procedures, like, let's get paid. You're not in the business of being a bank. And so it's one of those where how you use your cash is, really, we see it a lot in orthodontics. So we see orthodontists who choose to be the bank, and it's not good at the end of the day. And you go to sell your business or transition, bring in a partner, you're not really getting value for all that money that's still out there. And so I'd much rather have it in your bank account and then in your pocket personally. And so that's why things have bubbled up as solutions. Like in the healthcare side, you've got care credit and every other thing that kind of is now an option. But yeah, turning on ACHs, like within QuickBooks, you can actually turn on ACHs really easily. I think it's a maximum $10 fee per ACH.
Well, we do some online payment for prepaid stuff and things like that, but I'm just thinking, quick and easy, you're doing them all day long.
Yeah, so one thing that's great too, and Mark's probably get into this with QuickBooks, is just the feature to even email the invoices. And with the emailed invoices, the customer has a click of a button. And so sometimes you have to make sure though that email is going to the right party, because if it's going to the business owner, they're thinking, oh, I bet you Sarah down in AP is getting this in the mail, she'll tend to it.
Exactly.
So making sure it's going to the right owner. But we have found a lot of success for clients because at the end of the day, if the customer is able to, hey, I got this invoice, okay, let me go ahead and pay this with a click of a button, or flag it for tomorrow, whatever it is, they're paying it then versus the time that you're taking to rely on the postal service, them write a check, mail it to you. At the end of the day, even if they are paying with the ACH, the $10 fee that you're paying for, say, $1,000 invoice, the fact that you have that $1,000 or that $990 net potentially 5 to 7 business days faster outweighs the pricing of that. So, so we have definitely seen a lot of success for professional services, especially to turn on that email functionality and then having the ACH. QuickBooks even allows you can turn on the ACH feature or the credit card feature, and you can, as you're emailing those invoices, choose, do you want to allow them to do the credit card or not? Because QuickBooks at one time it was cheaper to do ACHs versus credit cards. So once you know what the fee is, depending upon the volume of the invoice, if it is a lower paying invoice, the credit card fee is going to be really cheap. So you want to allow them to do that. However, if it's a higher dollar amount invoice, you might not want to give them the option to pay with a credit card and you want to force the ACH. But it's such an easy click of the button to say, I only want to accept ACH on this, and it doesn't even give them that option.
It allows you that. It asks you that at the invoice level and before you send the email. So a template, like a default email template, will come up to your customer, and that's just where kind of Felicia said, make sure you have the right person it's going to, their right email address, and you can review all that before you hit send. And then they get the email, they click the button. Y'all are customers, so you might have seen it. That's how we do it. And so we try to make it easy to get paid, obviously. So it's one of those where that can all be applied to any business. And even now, QuickBooks is scaling. They've got finance built into QuickBooks to where it's not factoring. It's kind of lending. But we don't at this point we don't recommend that. So you can get paid quicker, and there's certain rabbit holes you can go down, but we wouldn't recommend that because a lot of times those loans have so many fees associated with them that they aren't then they don't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
Well, good,
Um,
thank you.
And
But-
even
but
shows on
definitely
that
there's-
email route too, it shows you like a little log as to what day they opened the invoice and
If they
looked at
viewed
it,
it.
if they viewed it. And so that kind of helps as to, okay, I know you received it because, and so I was looking at one for client the other day and you could tell they had viewed it like 5 times over like a 3-day period. I'm like, okay, there's acknowledged they're opening it and either determining their cash flow or whatever it may be. So you have that trail within QuickBooks to look at that specific invoice and see the activity, and it will tell you,
You need to
okay,
spend
they've
some time
passed.
with QuickBooks
I know,
and
So,
yeah.
that feature a little better.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, so it's just, it's tracking, and so that's the great thing about a system like QuickBooks Online. The data is captured, so it's what you can do with that data. And so that's really where point 5, everything is captured. If the data is good data, it's captured within a system like QuickBooks. And so reviewing that data, the AR, and seeing what those customers are, and knowing who to stay on top of, and knowing who to roll out certain things. The ACH is great because it's a maximum of $10. So if you have a $10,000 invoice, you're only going to pay a $10 fee. Now, there are other merchant service solutions through either your bank or through other options. So we would just tell you to evaluate those and look which one works better. We like the QuickBooks one because it's built in and it's easily trackable. So reviewing AR and just seeing who owes you money, maybe out of the practice management too, it's just knowing which customers that are the frequent delinquent, items. And so we kind of help supply some of our clients with just those reports. Whenever we do like a monthly closeout, we say, as part of the way that we add value, it's like, hey, you really need to follow up on these invoices. Like, is there a dispute? Is that a retainage? Like, you just never know. So that's something that you definitely need to stay on top of. And it kind of goes back to that, into what your business model looks like. And it's just, if you're going to review anything on a monthly basis, your bank statement, not even the reconciliation, your bank statement, because it's unfortunate there's so much embezzlement and fraud within small businesses, and so much of it goes unreported. And the way that we've seen that most business owners can stay on top of that is just by reviewing their bank statement. You're going to be the one that knows, hey, this Kroger charge seems out of the ordinary, and what's going on there. Whereas like an outside team, we would say, oh, that's office supplies because they go to Kroger every month. But an example would be like the office manager is actually buying her personal groceries on a Kroger, credit card, and so there's stuff. Or so reviewing the bank statement, and then also reviewing what your AR is, who owes you money, is really key. AP, a lot of people don't use the AP function of like QuickBooks like it should, just because a lot of people just pay the invoices as they come in. And really AP, what we would recommend there is just getting a really good cashback credit card. So most of your vendors will accept credit card payments. So if you like loyalty points, hotel stays, travel, whatever that is, use a credit card like that. And then if not, use a cashback credit card. We really recommend that as opposed to writing a check or a debit card nowadays, because of just the likelihood that someone will take that information and fraud. And we've got a client who had an issue on one of their bank accounts because the checks, they came in contact with one of the client checks somewhere down the road because they made a check look exactly like check stock for the client. And you can go to Vistaprint and buy a bunch of check stock. So
True.
so that's where we recommend that protection. And your credit card is going to have a little more. I use my credit or one of my credit cards for everything, just because if there's a fraudulent charge, they're not hitting my cash. They're not hitting what runs my business or what runs my family. And so the credit card, they're going to take 30 days, whatever, to evaluate it, but it'll be kind of suspended as far as hitting my account.
Right.
A debit card or a check, while the bank does its best, there always might be a delay there. So credit card, the other thing that we like with using credit cards in the business, they're not right for everybody, but if you can pay it off every month, it truly is a line of credit for you. It gives you a 30-day to 45-day line of credit, no interest to you. So it's one of those where if you're able to pay it off every month, you're building points, your cash back. But then also what it's doing is it's providing a rhythm to your business. So much like Profit First, it builds up your deposit account. That credit card account is building, and then that's just one outflow out of your cash per month. So that operating account, you're paying your credit card once a month versus it getting pinged every day. And it allows a certain rhythm in the business and you to feel comfortable and have a peace about life. So it just gives you options, we think. So we're advocates of credit card as long as they're reviewed, they're used responsibly. So, but real quick, we've got a little bit of time, so I was gonna show you just some reporting tools that we use. And like I said,